Hello again. Thank you to all of you familiar faces that have made it back to another episode of Veritas Live, the #1 most talked about, best rated show on LinkedIn. And I am saying that with zero bias. I'm saying that with very little bias. I'm saying that with a ton of bias, but that's because I am Johnny King. I'm the host today, and I'm broadcasting, as always, live from the tippy top of my 2-story high-rise here in Orlando, Florida, where I very quite literally had to deal with an alligator making it through a hole in my fence in the yard. But it's fine. It's great. That happens. I still think you should visit us. You would love it. You would love it here. It's great. But enough about me. I want to know where you are broadcasting from. Where are you tuning in from? We've got a global audience, and I would love to give you a shout out. Let us know in the comments below. Even better, put in your exact coordinates and I will just broadcast your exact location to the masses. I'm just kidding. This is not a phishing scam, but pertinent to the conversation today. Stay primed, stay poised with the hashtag Veritas Live. Throw any comments, any questions that you have in. I would love to engage with you today. I want some engagement, so don't let me. Cybersecurity, let's give a tale of the tape. Cybersecurity is at an all-time high across multiple industries. And if that is a shocking statement to you, then you need to pay more attention. But really, cyber criminals have shifted a lot of their activities from larger enterprises to now SMBs, small to mid-sized businesses. We're going to use that acronym a lot today. In March, Toyota announced that it completely halted production due to an attack on one of its sub-suppliers for plastics. And in April, on a smaller scale, but no less harsh here, is that Baptist Health System and Resolute Health Hospital announced that due to a data breach, patient information was released across the state of Texas, which, if you know anything about healthcare, is a big no-no. But what I want to know now, I wish I didn't do that. It's fine, we're live. But what I want to know is why cyber criminals are moving from large enterprises to SMBs, what we can do to better protect ourselves throughout the entirety of the supply chain, and what some misconceptions other customers have in the area as it relates to security. And in order to do that, to have the conversation, to answer these questions, I have tasked 2 wonderful guests to address these solutions with me. Dr. Ali Baghdadi, he's the Senior VP Chief Executive of Ingram Micro for the Middle East Africa region, as well as Simon Jelly, our very own Veritas GM of SaaS Protection Endpoint and backup exec. So thank you, Dr. Ali and Simon, for joining the program. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here. Really looking forward to the conversation, Johnny.
Welcome, Dr. Ali.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, very exciting to be on the show, and looking forward to a great discussion with Simon.
And all the way from Egypt today. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at the sea on the right side here, and fantastic Mediterranean view. Better temperature than Europe.
No alligators there, I hope, for you, Dr. Ali.
No, we only have sharks.
Well, we've also got a shout out to Boston, Saudi Arabia, Chile, Palestine, Ireland, Brazil. Thank you for all the engagement. Keep it coming. Now, if you guys have watched Veritas Live before, you know we can't just jump into the discussion. We have to start with an icebreaker. So I know you are subject matter experts in all things cybersecurity, but outside of that space, I want to ask what your passions are. Simon, I'm going to start with you. What is a passion of yours outside of this space?
Well, overall, and probably hinted by my title, I think we're in that fascinating trend of not just the rise of cybersecurity, so the move towards cloud and SaaS. And for me, I've always been in this world of, I came into, from graduating from college into the world of data governance and compliance. To helping customers really understand how they drive that data governance and compliance, not just the broader spectrum of protection as they move through this journey that they're on now with embracing cloud and SaaS. I always like to say, nothing ever truly dies in IT. We always have with that infrastructure that we're trying to protect in, whether it be client server infrastructure or mainframes, etc. How we now continue to add cloud as an extra complexity is definitely a passion of mine in helping organizations really embrace the cloud, but understand their data governance and protection liabilities and responsibilities as they make that change.
Well, you are in the right place then, because we've got a lot of questions for you as it relates to that.
Looking forward to it.
Dr. Ali, same question. What passions do you have outside of the cybersecurity space?
Well, all my life I've been building companies and taking them hopefully to successful growth. But in doing so, you learn so much. And my passion really is mentoring young individuals on how to be successful in whatever they do, whatever field. So I actually work with groups of students at Imperial College, which is where I graduated from. And the latest project was called the KSP project, Carmel Space Program. We actually have 75 students designing rockets. We shot one rocket about 2 weeks ago from Glasgow. It went up 5 kilometers. And by 2024, we're going to have a rocket that will go outer space beyond the Kármán line, space line. So yeah, fantastic learning exercise for 75 students, software, mechanical engineering, aeronautics, everything.
Wow. Well, I know some of our listeners out there, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, they're on the... Listen, Dr. Ali's coming for you.
We're going to beat Elon Musk and Virgin as well.
You heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first. Man, I've got to get some better hobbies. I've got to get some better friends. You guys are really interesting to me. All right. Well, I'm piggybacking on from the last episode. If anybody out there was familiar with what we talked about, of course, it was the move to cloud. We know that organizations all over the globe are shifting data and applications to the cloud at an exponential rate. But what I'm curious about is what are some of those misconceptions around security for organizations that are really going down that path? And Dr. Ali, I'll pass that question to you.
Sure. So imagine I'm working on an important proposal all night and I have to send it in the morning. I'm too tired to send it now. Next morning I wake up and my systems are locked. And there's only one message with a really nasty image on it saying, pay this amount in cryptocurrency or your data will be destroyed or leaked if it's like a new something that I've created. It's encrypted. I don't have the key. It's been hijacked. And this is what we call a ransomware attack. In the first quarter of this year, 2022, we saw more ransomware attacks than what we've seen all year in 2021. It's actually going to be a record year. And the interesting thing is that it's targeting SMBs, small and medium-sized businesses. They're not safe. So big targets usually have been like banking, utilities, large retail, but now SMBs include small businesses, clinics, health, education. There is no, hackers are criminals and they have no sympathy with anyone. You will lose. So cloud backup can be vulnerable as also many applications sync with the local data that you have either on your iPad, your phone, or on your laptop. So if anything is infected, it will go, the cloud will be infected as well. So the other thing, of course, is SMBs are less prepared for such attacks and they are an easier target. So it's assumed by many SMBs that cloud platforms have inherent built-in security. Well, that is not the case, my friend. Backups in the cloud are not safe unless proper planning for recovery and protection are in place. That's what I can say.
Yeah, Simon, anything to add there?
Yeah, I love the examples and the practical reality of what's happening here with the threat of ransomware. Look, I think ultimately the trend that I see most disturbing as you think about SMBs in particular in the cloud, although I would say applies across all segments, is people assume with the cloud, they're buying an outcome, right? They're buying that delivery of the service and everything that's part of that service when it comes to the service delivery, when it comes to the data security, when it comes to the data protection, the overall governance is built in, right? There's just, you've got the outcome, you move forwards. And I think in particular for SMBs, we know that, IT in many SMB organizations is something they don't have necessarily 100% dedicated resources to. They find it complex with the existing infrastructure, trying to manage that on-premise and drive their primary business. So they do look to cloud as a simpler way to do it and buy the outcome. However, the reality is with cloud, you're just buying infrastructure in the cloud. You had infrastructure on the prem, you're shifting that to the cloud. And many cloud vendors hide the small print that says we operate a shared responsibility model. And what that shared responsibility model means is you as a customer still own the responsibility for your data, the protection of that data, the governance of the data, the security of the data. So I think, that assumption of you're buying an outcome, which is not true. Again, you've still got that responsibility, and understanding it is still your responsibility to ensure that data is properly protected. So it can be recovered in the instance of, for example, a ransomware attack.
100%.
Yeah, it's true. And not to mention any names, but a lot of organizations just having that big name in their back pocket, they feel a little bit more secure, but that is not inherently true. But organizations are still moving to the cloud because there's a lot of benefits there. But I'm curious, outside of some of those misconceptions, Dr. Ali, can you highlight maybe some of those additional challenges that effort provides as well?
Yeah, so looking at SMBs, I mean, recovery plans, once you're attacked, right? Your data's gone. And to recover the data, the plans that you need to have in place are not understood, not implemented either previously. So protecting backups and data from ransomware attacks is a major, major concern for our customers, our small customers in particular. We see actually different types of cloud ransomware attacks. For example, ransomware can infect file sharing services. I mentioned the likes of Dropbox, OneDrive, even the mobile device cloud backup, because many people use like iPads or phones even. And of course, cloud-based email like Office 365 is another type. So that's a direct cloud attack on emails. A third type is attacking cloud vendors. There's been several major attacks, like an attack on Kaseya. Kaseya is a software company, and the 1,500 companies, small and medium-sized businesses that use their software were affected. Imagine overnight, 1,500 customers have no access to their data. Another one is SolarWinds, and SolarWinds had even more customers. They had 18,000 customers, and their SaaS has been installed on those customers. And again, once the ransomware affects them, and for an update, users just download an update and the update is infected. You've had it, that's it. So hacker on this occasion installed what's called a RAT, which is a remote access Trojan. Trojan is like, an entity that goes in and kills your system. So those are the sorts of things. So don't be just complacent and think that you're safe.
I'd love to build on that point. I think you touched on a point earlier, Dr. Ali, around that there's no emotion when it comes to the ransomware perpetrators out there. And I think the biggest theme that we've seen over the last year in terms of why that doubling of ransomware attacks over the last year is ransomware is a business, right? They've developed a great business model in terms of how to make money. Right. And so one of the things that ransomware perpetrators get good at is how to become more and more efficient at driving that ransomware attack and ultimately looking for a return on their investment. I mean, it's a crude and ugly investment, but they're making more investments to get better at, one, building the algorithms that lock out your systems, and two, drive that infiltration. And I think it's a great example with Kaseya, for example, of they've recognized that maybe going directly to the SMBs, that's one way of doing, but quicker, if they can get to the service providers that serve thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of SMB organizations, they can multiply the effects of that ransomware attack overall. So I think, look, number one, we all have to adopt the posture of, unfortunately, it's not a if I'm going to get attacked, it's when, right, in terms of thinking about ransomware. So it's a mindset, number one. And then I think, there's a few key things we often advise, particularly SMB customers, to think about when it comes to ransomware. Number one, do they understand the data they have? I find it extraordinary. I've spent 20 plus years in the protection governance industry, and still customers of all types struggle with really understanding where is and what is their most important data. Ultimately, your response is defined by making sure you can get that most critical business data up and recovered as quickly as possible, and ideally not pay the ransom. Secondarily, making sure that you've got that data properly protected so you can ultimately, we certainly advise against making sure you've got classification, anomaly detection, security protections in place that try to block that ransomware infecting you. But the reality is, and with that, some very likely to get through, and you need to make sure you've got protection policies that air gap that data away. So you've got a golden copy of that data, what we call the 3-2-1 rule of backup, and something you can implement with Veritas solutions like Backup Exec. And then finally, and the thing that amazes me that it still doesn't happen enough is, don't be on the day that you've had the ransomware attack and you need to do recovery, be the first time you've actually tried to do that recovery. You've got to rehearse. You've got to prepare for, unfortunately, the inevitable event. We all train for the race. We all hopefully all train for, we all know what happens. I certainly do. If we don't train to play rugby like I did last night, right? You're pretty quickly pulling off the pitch. So same kind of thing with data protection. We got to train for that. We got to rehearse the recoveries. We've got to classify and protect that data in the right way. And Dr. Ali touched on some great examples of the technologies there that we implement within our solutions to help customers do that.
Yeah, that's true. And I have to imagine that happens all the time. It's my first triathlon. I had never swum before. And I just jumped right into the open water and immediately was, somebody help me, please. It happens all the time. And I know you're touching on it already, but curious to dig a little bit more. Just logically, a criminal would want to go after the most vulnerable organization. So what are some things that larger enterprises are doing that SMB customers could adopt? Dr. Ali, I'll pass that to you.
Yes, of course. So larger enterprises invest heavily in protecting themselves, and there are many things that smaller customers can learn, of course. I would always start with education. Educate all the teams, all the staff on how to protect themselves, how to recognize phishing emails and messages and so forth. And there's a lot of very good information on how to do that available online and through vendors and through Veritas and others, and through Ingram Micro. But then you go into the actual use of technology. So how do you back up your data securely? How do you create air gaps, separate between the physical backup and the logical backup? A hardening of the backups, for example. Lockdown, which is allowing only certain users to be able to access the backups. And then there are many technologies that can be deployed, such as anti-phishing tools, multi-factor authentication, et cetera, et cetera. So technology being used, education, and also look out for what the artificial intelligence has been adopted in some of the technologies that are available and currently being performed manually by consultants. So we see AI being driving attack simulators, for example, classification of data, followed by encryption, triangulation of the classified data so that you can protect it better than the rest of it, and then also planning. I think planning is an absolutely important task for a small business to do. How are you going to achieve certain, what we call RTOs, like the recovery time objective, and RPOs, the recovery point? How many number of backups do you do and store, and have who has access to those, etc., and rehearse them, like Simon says. Rehearse the plan. Otherwise, when I'm going to say, as something really bad happens, you have to be prepared. So there are many options of restoring data, which is the most important part after a successful attack. Including the old technologies like tape drives and or from snapshots, but of course from the cloud, there are clever technologies that will allow you to make your data immutable and also very difficult to access. So look out for solutions that deploy artificial intelligence, whether it's for data classification or for other automated tools like automation of assessments, pen testing, web assessments, vulnerability assessments, or even monitoring all the time using attack simulators that use artificial intelligence, for example. That, they show you what an attacker can do, and hopefully you recognize your problems before they get to you.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, that's a great place for maybe me to build on in terms of thinking about, how can we help from a Veritas perspective with our SMB customers. I've worked with and for Veritas for a number of years, and one of the reasons I chose to come and work here is because I think my view is we take a very unique approach to our solution set, in that we do have we serve the whole spectrum from single user organizations to hundreds of thousands of people in terms of size of organizations, right? From the largest of the large to the smallest of the small. And we recognize that there's solutions that are dedicated to those different spaces. They have different needs. However, in the areas of ransomware, there's a common there's a common issue that we're all trying to defend against, whether it be in the large enterprise and the SMB. And we have built technologies that share across those two. So, for example, within the backup exec technology suite, that's our data protection technology is really driven towards the SMB. Very simple, one solution that allows you to, in a single solution, very simple unified data protection solution. We built in early what we call ransomware resilience. Now, what ransomware resilience ensures is that the anomaly that comes in through ransomware doesn't perpetrate itself into the backup technology, right, and cause further spread, as Dr. Ali talked about in that. That ransomware resilience technology, we've actually done the reverse and then started to build those into our large enterprise solutions. Similarly, there's a lot that we've built in our data insight and classification technologies in the large enterprise side, traditionally serving more data governance, data compliance needs, that we've now started to pivot into more anomaly detection and build into our SMB solutions moving forwards. So those themes of anomaly detection, ransomware resiliency, immutability, those are the types of capabilities that SMB organizations should be looking for, and that are technologies that have certainly been commonplace in the large enterprise space that are coming into the SMB space overall.
And I want to piggyback on that too, Simon, because you had mentioned a few things, anomaly detection, scanning as well, because we've got a question from the audience is, how can we guarantee the backup is not infected by ransomware? Can you address that?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, from a perspective of looking at technologies that have what we call ransomware resiliency, we example with backup exec, we ensure that we lock down the process around the backup so that we're detecting anomalies, we're making sure that they're not taken through. We've worked with a number of partners, actually like Ingram in the past, where we've done large-scale simulated ransomware attacks. And ultimately guaranteed that the infection, we've seen that while the ransomware has affected other parts of the infrastructure, their file shares, their key applications, it hasn't perpetrated into the backup overall. Again, and there's there's ultimately lots of descriptions of how to do this, but we basically recommend adopting what we call a 3-2-1 policy, which ultimately means you've got 3 copies of the data, 2 online or nearline to drive the immediate recovery, but 1 that is completely air-gapped and away from the main data sources and ability to ultimately drive the infection overall. And again, looking at ransomware and anomaly detection, ransomware resilience and anomaly detection to prevent that infection moving into the backup technology itself.
Now, Dr. Ali, for you, you'd mentioned AI and really machine learning as part of, I think it was the attack simulations, which is what Simon was just mentioning. But what role outside or any additional role, what role do you think AI and automation will play in the future of solutions preventing cyber attacks?
Of course, artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, artificial neural networks will play a major role in advancing many, many technologies that ultimately will increase the probability and speed of preventing cyber attacks and, of course, ransomware as well. So what is AI? AI now enables so many examples of technology. So automatic data classifications, for example, also where sensitive data can be identified and triangulated and stored perhaps in a unique place as well. Tracking and analyzing insider threats, that's an interesting technology that sometimes combines also physical security assets like CCTV cameras. And there's a large number of breaches which are caused by insiders, either by mistake or collaborating with outsiders. And then, of course, there are also AI can be used in tracking the metadata and also what's happening inside the network from an access to certain points and so forth. And I believe that some of the Veritas technology, like data insights, use similar data together with also templates that can identify ransomware. So with the help of specifically artificial neural networks, we call them ANNs, solutions are developed to behave almost the same like a human brain, but millions and millions of times faster. So when this neural network is trained, let's call it an intelligent agent, and this agent is put in the line of defense, it can do many things. At a basic level, it learns how to uncover and recognize data patterns and misbehaviors or different behaviors that would be different to the normal behaviors and are extremely difficult for a human mind to analyze, as they are millions of data. It then classifies, categorizes this data, and it presents it to a security professional or a consultant. A more advanced intelligent agent would go one step further. It makes recommendations to the security professional on what actions to take, like plug this hole or update this software or disconnect this user, whatever. Lastly, and the most advanced form, is it actually takes corrective action, which is like what a human does, when you face a threat. It mitigates a security issue on behalf of the security profession. Of course, these cannot happen, 100%. And so there are other technologies driven by AI, like to reduce what we call the false positives, so that the outcome is almost 99.99% accurate, if not 100%. A human being will always be the one that provides the 0.001% at the end.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I think what Dr. Ali touches on is something we've talked. I know we've had other discussions in other Veritas LinkedIn Live sessions of what we call autonomous data management. Right, that's our real vision for the future. We think there's a massive opportunity with these types of technology to really automate the recommendations, automate ultimately the policies and procedures, and simplify what is a complex world of protection today. But I love the kind of end point there of, like, ultimately it's not taking control away from the human being, right? It's providing tools that really allow that human thinking and that human being to really focus on what's most important, which is driving the needs of the business at the end of the day, right? We don't want to analyzing the logs, seeing the threats, knowing what to basically put in place in terms of either automating a recovery procedure or changing your policies to better protect you. That's something we can more autonomously do to then free up the resources of the critical human resources of the business to drive the productivity of the organization and drive growth at the end of the day. And that's what we're here to serve as Veritas and ultimately to our customers and partners.
I think that's great. And I know we are out of time, but I really enjoyed the conversation. Dr. Ali, any closing thoughts, any takeaways for our audience out there?
I think what everyone should remember is that no one is safe. Don't take things for granted just by going to the cloud. Prepare. Simon?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, as I said, it's not an if, it's a when, and having that mindset in terms of then understanding what data you have, what's most important to you. You have a proactive policy in place to keep that data protected, and you've rehearsed. You've practiced before the event itself. They're the three biggest guidelines I'd put as a kind of final thought from me. Again, thank you very much for the time today. And thank you
so much, Simon. Thank you, Dr. Ali, for joining us. I really appreciated it. I hope that the conversation doesn't end here. To the audience, keep throwing out your questions, your comments, keep the engagement high, even though the conversation is nigh. I don't know if that makes sense, but it rhymes, so I had to throw it out there. And Dr. Ali, you actually got 2 requests to be mentored out there. So maybe you'll have to follow up on that. A couple of bold individuals. I love it. But thank you again. I want to give a quick shout out to Dr. Ali's YouTube channel, Tech Talk with Dr. Ali. Incredibly knowledgeable, incredibly informative. You won't want to miss that, as well as Simon Jelly just recently posted another article in Forbes. 3 things the C-suite should know about data protection, data management, data protection. And Simon, I really liked the blurb on the 3 Vs. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out the article.
Check it out. Absolutely.
But I had fun. I hope you learned a lot, had fun as well. Don't forget to rewatch some of our older episodes on YouTube. Like, comment, share, post us on socials, as they say. With that, I will leave you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you right back here on LinkedIn Live, Veritas Live. the end of the month. So you won't want to miss that. We'll see you then.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.